and welcome to Moose Podcast 199. Woo! Getting up there, folks. How you all doing? I trust you're all safe and sound, wearing your mask, getting through this very unique, to be generous, scenario we've got ourselves into right now. I also hope you're out there taking photographs and, of course, sharing those. A lot of people can't get out to shoot, and your photographs are going to brighten their day. So remember to keep sharing all those clicks you make. I want to thank you all for your continual support. You guys were really great this last week. You sent in some good questions. I appreciate that. Made me think today's podcast won't be easy. I appreciate that challenge. Also want to thank my good friends at Bedford's Camera, bedfords.com. Now, Bedford Camera has been incredibly active. They've got lots of great stuff out there. You know that these camera stores, all of them, are working hard to keep us out shooting. So make sure you say hello, tell them thanks, and tell them thanks for supporting the Moose Podcast. And remember, when you check out, use that special code, MOOSE. Get that discount, free shipping for orders over $99. And for a lot of states, no sales tax. So you can save some money, actually go out and do more shooting. Just an interesting industry piece of trivia. I learned this last week. You guys are actually, as a nation, in North America, you guys are buying more gear than normal. And they're looking at why. Of course, being good old capitalists, we have to figure that out. It would seem that since a lot of folks aren't able to do the same kind of trips, they're actually spending more money on gear than driving locations and shooting. I think that's phenomenal. So good one, guys. It's glad to see you're out there enjoying your passion. That's really what it's all about. And in fact, that's what today's podcast is all about. Now, I had a lot of great questions. One that actually stumped me is this week's topic. How do you take romantic photos when you're not a romantic? Now, when Anders posted that on my Facebook page, he first left out the word not. How do you take romantic photos when you are romantic? I'm like, that was kind of easy. But then he emphatically put the word not. I meant not. And I'm like, okay, how do you take romantic photos when you're not a romantic? Well, first of all, in this process, I've been thinking about this since he posted it. It's had I'm sitting here tying flies, wondering, how do you do all that? And I think it starts off with, unlike a lot of things, not the photographer, but the subject they're pointing their camera at. Now, I'm sure there are some stamp and coin collectors out there who, when they're photographing their collection, are really in love and have a romantic twist to their photography. But, a coin on black velvet is a coin on black velvet, or white cotton, or in a drawer. I mean, the lighting. Now, there was a series of photographs, just so I can point myself as being wrong, because I'm not always right, folks. Got to keep that in mind. I have more faults than California. There was a series of photographs a number of years ago where a photographer just did portraits of the faces on coins. And in that process, he used some very cool lighting to make, Lincoln and Washington and all those guys on coins be a really cool portrait. So I guess right off the bat then, my first premise doesn't work. If you are a coin collector, you could photograph those coins romantically. So then it comes back to, okay, maybe it's not the subject. Maybe it is all the photographer. I could point to a number of photographers out there. Some of you know who I'm talking about. who really don't have a lot of romantic inclinations when they're out there shooting. Some photographers truly love, and God bless them, the technical side of photography. And there's really absolutely nothing wrong with that. Any way that you want to go out and take pictures and makes you happy, for me, I'm all in. That's great. The technical side, though, I'm talking about those who look at the math, okay, and look at charts and graphs, and they go to all lengths to sit there and perfect their craft. To them, that is romance, and that's cool. So then, if we're thinking about that, in this process of how do you take a romantic photograph when you're not a romantic, you've got to figure out how you're going to become romantic. Well, this isn't high school, so that part of romance isn't part of this equation. No, it's more the fact that what is it you actually are loving in the photographic process to be a romantic. And some of my good friends already know where I'm going with this. And to me, whether you're shooting stamps, looking at graphs and charts, or a grand vista somewhere on this amazing planet, the one element that all that photographic process has in common that is definitely part of being a romantic photographer is light. I mean, light is where it all comes from. That's how we express so much photographically in a single click or in a moving flick, is that light. So that light then is how you become a romantic photographer if you're not romantic. I'm sure there's some right now just like, oh, well, thanks, Moose. That doesn't help me. I already have a problem seeing light. Now I've got an extra bit of baggage to deal with. Yeah, you probably do. But that's okay. There is a lot of aspects to light. And every time you get a handle on one, I'm not saying mastering, because that would mean I have mastered it. And that's not the case. So don't take that as disheartening. Take that as, oh, cool. There's still hope for me. If Moose hasn't, maybe there's hopes that I can still get there. And there is. But in this process of getting a handle on light, remember there's lots of aspects to light. Most start off with, and we all kind of see it in our everyday life, whether there's a camera in our face or not, is the quantity of light. So right now, we're basically in the heat of summer in every way sense of the word. And so light, other than a few hours, early morning, late evening, it's just plain old hard. Now, what does hard light mean? If you look at your shadow on the ground, you're going to see a very hard edge around it. It's not very blurry. It's not a Photoshop distance 30 drop shadow. It's more like a Photoshop, shadow with 1 inch distance. It's really a hard edge. That's where we come up with the word hard light, because that shadow is such a hard line around us. How do you get past just doing that? Well, you can start seeing light. The two ways I recommend photographers start to see light, all about you. So first of all, if you're standing there and you make yourself kind of a sundial needle and you look at your shadow on the ground, if your shadow on the ground is shorter in length than you are tall, so let's say you're 6 feet tall and your shadow is 4 foot long on the ground, you have really contrasty light. If you're 6 feet tall and your shadow on the ground is 7 foot long, you have less contrasty light. You have more mellow light. If you look at your hand, you look at your hand right in the sun, and then you just start tilting your hand to create a shadow. If with your eyes you can see the wrinkles in your skin in that shadow, you have a a non-contrasty light. If you can't see the wrinkles in your hand in that shadow, you have a contrasty light. Now, notice I'm not saying you have bad light or good light. We're talking about the quality of that hard light you've got that you're experiencing. Because there's a lot of great photographs out there, a lot, shot in very hard contrasty light. If you're a wildlife photographer and you want to photograph, for example, Arctic terns, copulating, your only option is going to be at noon. They do it in the heat of the day. You have to figure out how to deal with that quote unquote contrasty light because you want the picture, you don't have an option. So while there is light that is better or worse for the story we want to tell, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to be good or bad contrast or contrasty or not contrasty light. My good friend Joe McNally just put out some very cool photographs of miners down in the mines in Romania. Now think about the environment and the story he wants to tell. I mean, it's not a romantic place, right? I mean, whatever you're extracting from the earth, it's a dirty, hot process as you go down further and further. I mean, that was one thing about working with bats. We go down in these mines, and instantly you've got 90-degree, 100-degree temperature with humidity almost the same in this claustrophobic, if you get that way, kind of condition. So he's down there shooting miners in that, and of course, there ain't no sunshine down there, right? He's bringing up his own magical bag of lights, which, if you know anything about Joe, he is a magician with that stuff. He tells story and sculpts light with flashes like no one else. But if you look at his storytelling from the first few pictures he's posted, it's kind of a contrasty light. And Joe's very much a romantic, but why did he use contrasty light? To tell a story that's kind of a brutal world. So how do you tell us, how do you take romantic photographs if you're not a romantic? You have to be kind of a storyteller at heart. And if you're not a storyteller at heart, I suggest start reading some books and not reading history books, not reading perhaps fiction books. You might start reading some fairy tale books. I grew up on the Lilac series of fairy tales, and there is death, there's mystery, there's witches, there's goddesses, all sorts of stuff in there. But the way that the writing is done in fairy tales is very flowery. It takes your mind to places, especially that you've never been to, but paints a really amazing photograph of that place. If you start reading some works like that put in your mind certain words, you'd be amazed how when you're out shooting, some of those words and or feelings will be evoked by what you're actually seeing in the viewfinder. And that translates into feeling something for the light. And you work towards being a romantic with a camera. You got to remember, though, none of this is going to happen overnight. None of this is going to happen, instantly. You're going to have to evolve. Your camera gear will have to evolve. Your post-processing will have to evolve. And that's really one of the best parts about photography. And this is the fact that we can go out and get better every day. We can become a better storyteller. So if you're not romantically inclined with a camera, don't give up hope. There's a lot out there who aren't. And embrace the fact that you can do it. It's very much possible. And you'd be amazed, just that one inner process, that one travel, that journey you might take to be a romantic might be the best investment you put into your photography. Well, you folks all stay safe. You have a great week. Thanks again for tuning in. And remember to make every click your story.